is a religion of the earth, expressed in the simple images of the village, the ox and the ass, the Lamb of God. And not only the animal form is allowed. The Son of God is a child. His mother is a woman and is the object of personal worship. When the Virgin is carried in procession, we are in a different universe of vision, not of abstract patterns, but of abounding and irrepressible life. When Christianity came to win back Spain, the excitement of the struggle was on the frontier. Here, Moors and Christians, and Jews too, mingled and made an extraordinary culture of different faiths. In 1085, the center of this mixed culture was fixed for a time in the city of Toledo. Toledo was the intellectual port of entry into Christian Europe of all the classics that the Arabs had brought together, from Greece, from the Middle East, from Asia. We think of Italy as the birthplace of the Renaissance, but the conception was in Spain in the 12th century, and it's symbolized and expressed by the famous school of translation at Toledo, where the ancient texts were turned from Greek, which Europe had forgotten, through Arabic and Hebrew into Latin. In Toledo, an early set of astronomical tables was drawn up as an encyclopedia of star positions. The tables are Christian, but the numerals are Arabic and are now recognizably modern. The most famous of the translators and the most brilliant was Gerard of Cremona, who had come from Italy specifically to find a copy of Ptolemy's Book of Astronomy, and who stayed on in Toledo to translate Archimedes, Hippocrates, Galen, Euclid, the classics of Greek science. And yet, to me personally, the most remarkable, and in the long run the most influential man who was translated was not a Greek. That's because I am interested in the perception of objects in space. And that was a subject about which the Greeks were totally wrong. It was understood for the first time about the year 1000 by an eccentric mathematician whom we call Alhazen, who was the one really original scientific mind that Arab culture produced. Alhazen first recognized that we see an object because each point of it directs and reflects a ray into the eye, so that the cone of rays that comes from the outline and shape of my hand grows smaller as I move my hand away. as I move my hand towards you, the cone of rays that enters your eye becomes larger and subtends a larger angle. And that, and only that, accounts for the difference in size. It's so simple a notion that it's astonishing that scientists paid almost no attention to it for 600 years. But artists attended to it almost at once. The concept of the cone of rays from object to the eye becomes the foundation of perspective. And perspective is the new idea which now revivifies mathematics. The excitement of perspective passed into art in North Italy, in Florence and Venice in the 15th century. This is Carpaccio's painting of St. Ursula leaving a vaguely Venetian port, painted in 1495. The obvious effect is to give to visual space a third dimension. Just as the ear about this time hears another depth and dimension in the new harmonies in European music. Contrast this fresco of Florence, painted 100 years earlier, about 1350 AD. There is no attempt at perspective because the painter thought of himself as recording things not as they look, but as they are, a God's eye view, a map of eternal truth. The perspective painter makes us step away from this absolute and abstract view. Not so much a place as a moment is fixed for us. All this was achieved by exact and mathematical means. The apparatus has been recorded with care by the German artist Albrecht Dürer, who traveled to Italy in 1506 to learn the secret art of perspective. Dürer, of course, has himself fixed a moment in time. And if we recreate his scene, we see the artist choosing the dramatic moment. He could have stopped here. He could have moved and frozen the vision here. But he chose to open his eye like a camera shutter, understandably, at the strong moment here. In early perspective, it was customary to use a sight and a grid to hold the instant of vision. The sighting device comes from astronomy, and the squared paper on which the picture was drawn is now the standby of mathematics. All the natural details in which Dürer delights are expressions of the dynamic of time, the ox and the ass, the blush of youth on the cheek of the virgin,